My mother used funds from my savings account to assist my brother, and now she's insisting that I cover her financial obligations. This wasn't how I envisioned things unfolding, yet here I am. Just last week, I accessed my banking application to move some cash for my car insurance payment, only to find my savings account balance showing precisely zero, not a few $100 absent, not even a few thousand. It was entirely depleted. Initially, I believed it was some kind of error. Perhaps I'd accidentally selected the wrong account. Maybe I'd transferred money without remembering. I began looking at the transaction details, and then I saw it. One huge transaction had occurred just 48 hours prior. And the name listed? My mom. I was completely devastated. My initial reaction wasn't even fury. It was bewilderment. Why would she do something like that? I don't share a household with her, and our relationship had always been pretty good. Or at least that's what I had thought. She is aware that I've been saving for years with the goal of purchasing a home. I had finally reached my target of $20,000 a few months back, and seeing that empty balance in my account was incredibly painful. I immediately called her. I wasn't shouting or anything, just filled with anxiety. When she answered, I questioned her, asking if she'd taken money from my account. What was happening? She released a sigh as if I were the one creating a problem and said, "I needed it to help your brother." For some background, my younger brother, we can call him Dan, is the family favorite. He's 27 but behaves as though he's still a teenager. I've never seen him keep a regular job for very long. My mother always ends up fixing things whenever he makes a mistake. On the other hand, I've been employed since I was 16, taking care of my own financial obligations and trying to create a life for myself down the line. Therefore, when I found out my hard-earned money went to him, it really set me off. I questioned what she specifically meant by help, and she became defensive immediately. She explained that Dan was having a tough time and needed assistance with his credit card bills. Apparently, debt collectors were bothering him, and she couldn't bear seeing him so stressed. "He's your brother," she stated, as if that should automatically make it all right. "Family looks after family," she said. I was completely floored by her words. I explained to her that the money wasn't just available for her to grab. I earned that money through a lot of effort. Her reply was, "You're young, you'll earn it again. Plus, it's not like I spent it on myself." That was the instant I understood that she didn't think there was anything wrong with her actions. In her eyes, the money I had saved was just another asset she could use any time she felt like it. She even attempted to manipulate me, saying I was being selfish by focusing on the money when my brother needed some support. I couldn't get a word in without her twisting the situation to make it about me. I ended the call and just remained there, staring at my empty bank account. I felt an overwhelming flood of rage, sorrow, and shock. I mean, who does that kind of thing? Who takes $20,000 from their child without even a conversation about it? The day after, I went over to her place to try and have a conversation with her in person, maybe seeing how upset I was. I thought that maybe she'd see the error of her ways because of what she did. Rather than saying she was sorry, though, she just got even more stubborn. She actually told me I should feel honored to help my brother, and that I was being selfish to get so angry about the money. She had the nerve to say, "You're lucky I didn't just keep all of it for me. I lost it." I told her she didn't have any right to touch my savings and that I wanted every dollar back. She just chuckled and said, "Good luck getting it from Dan. He's not working right now." At that point, I understood I wasn't going to make any progress with her, so I left. However, as I was driving home, I started wondering if she took my money without telling me. What else could she have done? I made up my mind to investigate further. I checked my credit report, looking at every account just to be sure. That's when I learned this wasn't the first time she had meddled in my finances. It turned out she had signed as a co-borrower for my brother on a loan last year using my name. This loan was completely new information to me, and as I looked into it, I discovered she hadn't made a single payment. I was technically in default, and my credit rating had been significantly impacted because of it. When I confronted her again, her reaction made me sick. She conceded she'd done it, but insisted she had no other option because the bank wouldn't approve the loan. Then she had the nerve to ask if I would assist by covering the payments for her. It hit me that this wasn't just a single incident. She had been using me as her safety net for a long time, and I never caught on. My financial resources, my good credit rating, everything I'd strived for, were merely casualties in her efforts to shield Dan from the repercussions of his bad choices. The craziest thing is, she believes she did absolutely nothing wrong. When I mentioned I was thinking about taking legal action, she scoffed and told me to go ahead, see where that gets me. Yep, that's the situation I find myself in currently. No money saved up, a trashed credit score, and a family who thinks I'm the bad guy for being angry about it. An update: I honestly didn't imagine things could get any worse after I learned my mother had depleted my savings to cover my brother's credit card bills, but I was mistaken. So deeply, deeply mistaken. Following our last disagreement, where she essentially laughed at me when I asked for my money back, I felt like I was losing my grip. It wasn't simply about the money. It was the pure nerve of it all. How could my own mother do this to me and not experience any remorse? I couldn't just drop it. Something inside me told me there was more happening, so I began to investigate. Initially, I just wanted to figure out how to shield myself in the future. I put a freeze on my credit just to be safe and examined every one of my accounts to confirm nothing else had disappeared. That's when I discovered it, an unfamiliar loan listed under my name. It wasn't a significant sum. I was shocked. The amount was just shy of $5,000, but I knew I definitely hadn't taken out any loan. My heart sank as I looked over the specifics. The loan originated last year and the payments had ceased several months prior. It had gone into default, and guess who was responsible? Me. I contacted the loan company, and after plenty of lengthy discussion, I discovered my mother co-signed for my brother to obtain the loan using my name. My name. She hadn't even consulted me. She simply falsified my signature and proceeded as if nothing were wrong. I was incredibly angry by this point, yet I still tried to convince myself that perhaps, just possibly, she had a valid explanation. Maybe it was a dire circumstance and she acted out of fear. So I gave her a call, and what did she say? Oh, that. I planned to mention it to you. However, you were so tied up with work that I didn't want to burden you. Burden me? The loan was in default. My credit rating had plummeted, and she believed she was helping me by keeping me in the dark. I insisted on knowing her reasoning. Initially, she gave me the same rationale as previously. It was for your brother. He required the funds, and she couldn't be approved on her own, but something about the way she spoke didn't feel right. She sounded evasive, so I pressed her further. I asked precisely what the loan was for, and she attempted to change the topic. She began lecturing me about how family is supposed to support each other, and how I'd understand when I became a parent myself. That was the moment I realized it. She was being dishonest. There was no chance this was only about Dan's credit card troubles. I figured I needed to investigate further. I gave Dan a call to see if he had any details about the loan, and imagine that. He knew nothing. He stated he hadn't received a single cent from that money, and what I was talking about was completely foreign to him. Initially, I figured he was trying to protect her by lying, but as I listened, I understood. He was just as in the dark as I was. If the loan wasn't for him, then where did the cash vanish to? That's when a strange comment from my aunt during a family get-together a few months back popped into my head. She'd mentioned that my mom had been having a rough time at the casino recently. At the time, it hadn't seemed significant. My mom's always enjoyed a little bit of gambling, but it was never a big deal, or so I believed. I went back through my mom's Facebook profile. Yep, she's one of those moms who shares everything online, and I found several pictures of her at the casino. Some of them were from around the same time the loan was secured. I felt a chill go through me. Could she actually have used the loan and my savings to support her gambling addiction? I needed evidence so I could face her with it again. I asked her straight out, did you use my money and the loan to gamble? Initially, she denied it. However, when I presented the photos and the time frame, she finally gave in and confessed she had been visiting the casino almost every weekend for the past 12 months. She'd accumulated. I accumulated a massive amount of debt hopping to recoup all my losses, finding myself in a truly precarious situation. It wasn't only my savings that vanished. In the transaction, she had also maxed out her own credit cards and even got loans from other relatives who were completely unaware of the gambling habit. I was totally stunned. I couldn't even process what I was hearing. This wasn't just about helping my brother. This was now about her issue. She had deceived everyone, taken advantage of me, and completely shattered my faith, and all of it because she couldn't stop herself. And what really made it awful? She didn't seem apologetic at all. She did cry, certainly, but it didn't seem to be the kind of crying that comes from being sorry. It was the type of crying that surfaces when someone is caught. She kept saying, it wasn't my intention. To make the situation even more unbearable, when I mentioned that I was contemplating legal options, she completely switched the narrative and began placing the blame on me. She said that if I hadn't been so tight-fisted with my funds, I wouldn't have had to take it in the first place. Can you believe that? She stole $20,000 from me, damaged my financial standing, and then tried to make it my problem. I left her place that day feeling more wounded and betrayed than I ever have before. She's my mother. She's supposed to protect me, not use me as her personal source of cash. I'm completely lost about how to even start to deal with all of this. A portion of me wants to completely sever all ties with her, but another part of me is feeling incredibly guilty. What if she truly has a gambling addiction? Do I even attempt to assist her? Or is my priority simply safeguarding myself? The most disheartening aspect is that I seriously doubt she'll ever truly alter her behavior. She continually promises to reimburse me, yet I understand that it's a futile hope. She's broke, and even if she miraculously acquired funds, she'd likely gamble it away. After everything, she actually had the audacity to label me selfish for my anger. She actually stated, "You're young, you'll recover." I had no alternative, no choice. She had countless choices, and she chose to sabotage my existence. Final update. After I found out my mother had utilized my savings and secured a fraudulent loan using my identity to finance her gambling, I figured things couldn't get any worse. But it seems I hadn't even scraped the surface. The consequences of this whole disaster have been far more intricate and emotionally draining than I could have ever predicted. The immediate action I took upon discovering this was to freeze my credit. If she'd secured one loan using my information, who's to say there weren't more? I spent what felt like an eternity on the phone with my bank, the credit reporting agencies, and an attorney just trying to secure the remnants of my financial security. Each instance I had to explain this whole ordeal to someone, a complete stranger on the other line. I felt completely foolish. The attorney gave me two courses of action. I could report her to law enforcement and file charges, or I could attempt to resolve it privately. Both felt like terrible options. On one hand, she's my mother. Reporting her would obliterate what remained of our connection, and probably. I worried about the possibility of this situation spiraling, maybe impacting other relatives as well. However, if I didn't pursue legal options, I would be saddled with the financial obligation, and I'd have very little chance of retrieving my cash. In addition, I'd be communicating to her that her actions were acceptable. Just to be clear, they weren't. I chose to give her a final opportunity to rectify the situation before involving the law. I visited her home and disclosed everything. I told her I was aware of the gambling, the loan, and the other relatives from whom she'd borrowed money. I informed her that I was finished being her support system, and that if she didn't repay me and cease treating me as her personal financial source, I would have no alternative but to report her to the police. What was her reaction? She behaved like I was the problem. She started to shed tears and said things such as, "I can't believe you'd treat your own mother this way, and you're going to destroy me." She didn't even refute her actions. She merely attempted to make me feel guilty so I would back down. It felt like speaking to someone who was made of stone, except the stone was labeling me as selfish for not wanting to be in severe debt. The most painful thing was observing her expression. She didn't seem remorseful. She looked furious, almost as if she was angry with me for daring to stand up for myself. That's when it hit me that no matter my approach, she wouldn't change. She wouldn't take responsibility for her actions, and she certainly wouldn't reimburse me. I had to come to terms with the fact that my mother was not the person I believed her to be. The following day, I submitted the police report. It was one of the most difficult actions. This whole situation is unlike anything I've experienced. Even while I was talking to the police officer, a part of me kept doubting myself. Was this the correct course of action? Was I making a mountain out of a molehill? But then I'd remember the $20,000 she took, the loan that was solely in my name, and the fact that she never intended to pay it back. Everything quickly became chaotic. When my mother found out about the police report, she completely lost it. She hurled every insult imaginable at me and told the rest of the family that I was trying to imprison her over a simple mistake. She presented herself as the innocent victim and portrayed me as the thankless daughter destroying her life. And believe it or not, some of them actually believed her. All of a sudden, I was receiving phone calls from my aunts, uncles, and cousins, all pleading with me to drop the charges. "She's your mother," they'd say, as if that somehow made everything she did okay. "You only have one mother," they'd remind me as if I didn't know that already. What's worse? My brother, the one she was supposedly helping, sided with her. He said I was being selfish and that I needed to let it go for the good of the family. That was easy for him to say, considering he wasn't the one burdened with a defaulted loan and empty savings. However, not everyone took her side. A handful of relatives contacted me privately to say they supported me, and some even confided their own experiences of my mom borrowing money and never returning it. Apparently, this wasn't an isolated incident. She's been doing this for years, but no one ever confronted her because that's just her way. That realization made me feel a bit more sane, though it didn't simplify things at all. Ultimately, I went without contact with her for a stretch, which was both painful and freeing. For once, I wasn't being pulled into all her messes. But I still couldn't stop dwelling on what I'd lost, not only the funds, but also the bond I believed we shared. I often wondered if it had ever been sincere, or if she'd only been manipulating me all along. The legal proceedings are still underway, but I've begun to put my life back together. I've been working in conjunction with my attorney to get my name off the loan and restore my financial standing. It's going to be a long haul, yet at least I'm making progress. Regarding the money I'd saved, I don't anticipate seeing it again anytime soon, but I'm learning to release the resentment and concentrate on creating a better life for myself. The last time I talked to my mother, she said I'd regret my choices. She predicted that I'd need her someday, and she wouldn't be there for me. You know what? Maybe she's got a point. However, at this moment, I believe I'm better off without her. I'd spent my entire life attempting to be the ideal daughter, striving to earn her admiration. But now I understand that no quantity of money or devotion will ever suffice for a person who only considers you a tool to use. If you ever find yourself in a similar predicament, take it from my experience. Safeguard yourself. Because occasionally, the individuals who should care for you the most are the ones who inflict the deepest wounds.